Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Tuesday morning over here from the same range. It feels like we've been in this range for forever, but it's really only been about 10 days. Other than that, though, there actually are a lot of things to be speaking about, funnily enough, in the short-term timeframes today, so that's going to be the big focus right off the bat. And then we'll follow up on the higher-term timeframes as well, very much unchanged right there. But other than that, I wanted to once again aggressively shill my own Instagram because I've been posting a lot more trading-related content there. Also, other stuff as well, so, it may or may not be for you. It's all good if that's, not, of course. But there is a link in the description below, and just a casual reminder that any other account that is not that account is a scammer. It's not me. I'll never DM you to trade some sort of secret account or anything like that. Other than that, I wanted to once again point out the leverage trading strategy video that I put out, I believe, yesterday morning. As I'm aware that the good old BBWP gambling tournament is going on right now. Just kidding, but seriously, if you're looking for just a working strategy, very basic strategy, and kind of an insight to how I actually trade in a more quantitative standpoint, that would be a good means of doing that. And then also, you don't have to fucking gamble in these tournaments. You can just actually use a systems-based strategy. It's that simple. Backtesting is your friend. Backtesting is your best friend. You just need to let it be. Okay, cool. So I think, oh yeah, and I should probably also let you know about the 0% on the maker fees with the BBWP link in the description below. Of course, don't use that if you're not going to be interested in leverage trading, or if you don't have a strategy, because it's not going to instantly make you successful, obviously. But yes, for the people who do actually have one, 0% maker fees, it's actually like that's actually a promotion that I'm pretty happy to be bringing, to be honest, because I like that. I quite like that. All right, let's waste no more time. Let's just jump into it right now. Let's work off the same chart that we were looking at yesterday. This is actually, well, this is an RSI chart, but this is actually the 4-hour time frame, so representing the short-term time frames here. And what do we see? Bitcoin based off the same area that we were looking at, just below, or basically just about 20,600 or so on a 4-hour time frame. You see a few wicks below, that's okay, but so far no break. So still the same sort of setup is available in the short term and even the higher term timeframes, obviously, as we were looking at yesterday, meaning that a break below this on a 4-hour time frame closure, and I would be looking for, a nice move down, probably somewhere down around about 20,000 bucks. And then Bitcoin probably puts in a little bit of a short-term time frame bounce and then heads on lower. But until that happens, this could very well be, if you are bearish or looking for reasons to be bearish, sorry, potentially a higher low right here. So what essentially is in alignment with that? Well, if Bitcoin does confirm a local low, which would be a higher low, a couple things would be in order. So first and foremost, we'd actually have hidden bullish divergence confirmed of actually multiple drives, 1, 2, 3, coming off these lows right here. That will again only be confirmed with at least a 4-hour closure, preferably above about 21,000 bucks, to have no questions asked on that. If you want to be super aggressive, but I do think it'd be a little more risky, would be about 20,900 in this case. Anyways, other than that, we also do see a lower term time frame stochastic momentum having a corrective move right here. So we've seen 4-hour stochastic momentum on CME come all the way down now. And this, to me, is actually a corrective move with very, very low volatility on the HVP of stochastic momentum. This would be considered a bullish reset if, this is a big if, Bitcoin can actually hold this range low right here, which is about 20,600 on a 4-hour closing basis. Below there, that goes out the wayside, and again, lower prices to be expected. But until then, as long as Bitcoin kind of glides sideways along here and allows these momentum oscillators to reset in this low volatile environment, then I would be looking at that as an indication that we're probably going to give another try back up north of 21,000 bucks, perhaps even all the way back up short term to the 21.6 to 21.8 region that we were looking at over the weekend right here, and also yesterday on Monday as well. Other than that, also on the bearish side, if you will, is the funny rates actually, which are negative, and I actually haven't called them out in the last couple of days. But yesterday we actually did see positive rates. That would have been an easy call for short-term downside. Unfortunately, I didn't catch that one myself, as I was in a bit of a rush getting to the doctor. Actually, I got my stitches taken out and a few other things done as well. But in this case, we see them now negative, comparable to what we saw on the 23rd of June and also on the 21st. I believe both of those days were bounce days. Actually, 23rd was right here when Bitcoin was getting ready to go from about 20,000 bucks to our current highs of about 21.8. And what was the other day? Was it the 21st? Yeah, it's the 21st. Let's see, maybe back on over here. That was coming out of essentially the same base. Yeah, I mean, this was actually all within the same area right here. Anyways, other than that, I do believe that it would be prudent to get into, or sorry, to once again reference the 12-hour, because while that setup is available there on the short-term timeframes, it's still contingent upon validation above basically 21,000 bucks preferably. If I was going to be using hourly, what would I use in this case? I would be using about 21,300, essentially the high of this last little dumbola dildo right there that we saw coming in from yesterday. Anyways, where was I going with this? Yes, I was going back to the 12-hour here. So here's the thing. If Bitcoin does break below even that 20,600-ish region and close a 4-hour below there, or an hourly below, I think it was 20,300, then that would set into motion a few other things that, well, would very likely imply probably back down to 19.5, maybe even 19,000 even. I do think that it would be closer to 19,000 actually, and that is hidden bearish divergence, which is still building over here. We'd actually have 1, 2, 3 drives coming off of these last few highs, and while it's still unconfirmed, that is still available. So nothing's really changed there. I mean, that is actually very much the same as what we've been looking at for the past, like, I guess like the past, it seems like the past week, but I think it's really just been like the past half week. Same thing on CME as well, but I did want to once again reference this chart over here. And this is why I still actually do have an upside bias, believe it or not. Now, before we get into this, I do want to say something. So one of the things, or maybe ask a question to the community. So one of the things that I've been noticing on social media a lot recently is that like a lot of people, it seems to me, are saying, and I might be in an echo chamber, but it seems like a lot of people are saying, everyone's bullish and calling a low. So Bitcoin, you know what that means? Bitcoin's going down. Well, actually, I keep on seeing that statement actually like spewed upon by like different names, which is really, really interesting. Now, of course, obviously not everyone is always thinking the same thing at one fucking time. Like, how egotistical can you be? But I'm just curious if you in the community have actually noticed the same thing as well, because, you know, I understand that like I'm probably stuck in my own echo chambers. I'm not exposed to like the whole markets, nor do I, hopefully, if the day is going well, read fucking social media all day. But I am curious if you kind of notice the same thing. Anyways, I want to get back into the signal over here as to why, you know, I still, statistically speaking, have a, you know, an upside bias here. Can I be wrong on that? Yes, absolutely. This statistics, and it's not perfect. It's about 82% probability that we do see this move to the upside, obviously, as we identified, and we will re-identify today as well. But in this case right here, this first signal based off of this daily stochastic momentum oscillator this horizontal level right here that my cursor is currently on, represented by that green horizontal bar. Anytime that we have seen CME daily stochastic get down to this region, it has produced a pretty, you know, decent bounce, if you will. I've gone ahead and measured all of the ones throughout CME's history, of which there are 7 actually, and done an analysis on them, of which I found on average there was a historical bounce about just under 31%. The days from the bounce initiation, which is the actual crossover, which happened I believe yesterday, to the next high was on average just over 14 days, just over 2 weeks basically. So what does that essentially mean? It essentially means that we'd be expecting Bitcoin to trade sideways and up outside of this range over the next couple weeks and put in, you know, a decent move, at least to the daily range highs. And then if it does play out something resembling the upper end of this average, then perhaps even as much of a, as a gap fill coming in from the 10th of June closure that we saw on CME back and over here, which would be anywhere between about 27.5 to 28.9 basically. So a nice big old rangeola right there, which I'll actually put in a nice little blue box to just represent that so we can keep tabs on that. I'm not saying that that's like that's certainly not my first target for that, but I would be looking at, you know, a move towards the daily range highs, which in this case are right here actually. Boom, there you go. And then I'd be looking at a daily closure above these highs in order to initiate that next major leg up. Again, one of the things that I learned from my mentor and just also just general experience, and you probably noticed the same thing as well, the way you go down is the way you come up, and the way you come up is the way you go down. In this case, Bitcoin just absolutely shot the bed to the downside right there. So if it does break back above this region right here, probably would be looking for a general shot back up towards this region as well in a relatively fast manner. Again, you know, about 14 days from the actual crossing time, which happened yesterday. So that would put us in, let me just bring up my calendar right here. That would be the second week of July, around the 11th, something like that. Anyways, with that in mind, and let me actually just measure this out right here, because it'd be from there to there. Yeah, that's 15% right there. Keep that number in mind. That will actually come up again. And then 30-ish%, yeah, puts you just below the gap fill, actually. So I do still think that that's in the cards. The only thing that would invalidate for me is Bitcoin closing below the range lows on a daily for CME, which is 19,600. Anyways, moving on to the next chart, again, of which also gives me an upside bias here, statistically speaking, again, is this chart. This is the mean reversion play that happens after maximum volatility expansion, of which what essentially is a signal? Well, the signal is BBWP, which is a measurement of volatility, the dispersion of returns, getting to extremes, which I define as like 90 percentile or above, and then cooling off from that and going back into a contraction phase. Basically, that typically that does produce a mean reversion move, and we can analyze that. But what I'm essentially talking about is best exemplified by this one right here from the 19th of May, which we saw play out not so long ago. We saw an extreme move from the lows to the extreme highs over here. Once the BBWP got a negative slope, plus below the moving average, plus the moving average also getting a negative slope, so 3 pieces of criteria right there. That is when I put in this green vertical bar that identifies a signal, and that is the high probability bounce in this case. And in this case, we saw about 16.5% done over the course of 12 days. I've done that for all the iterations, going all the way back to the genesis of CME again, and found that on average, the reversion play was about 15.25%, very similar to what would essentially equate to a move towards our current range highs. The average days taken was about 11.5. So again, very, very similar from what we were speaking about as far as the prior signal that we just went over. And then the stochastic momentum oscillator has gone the correct direction 82% of the time. So in this case, it's obviously pointed to the upside right now, and that gives us a very easy invalidation for something like this, which would be 20,500. As long as Bitcoin is above that on CME on a daily closing basis, the signal is still viable, still valid, and again, 82% of the time, maybe even increasing after this next iteration. We typically see on average a 15.25% move, which would put us around the daily range highs. If you start to see closures above there, then I'd be looking for the next major leg. And yes, we have seen signals that do travel much more. For example, this past one over here, actually back in February, where Bitcoin put in almost a 35% move. So there's a lot of variance in these, obviously, but I'd say that the easy and high quality play would be back up to the daily range highs, and then come back to it after that. I'd really want to see like an actual closure above there with force, particularly on volume, and then probably that next leg coming. And again, this is all contingent upon the daily's ability to remain above 20,500, very, very close to even the 4-hour time frame range lows there, which I was saying was 20,600 and change. But ultimately, they're basically one and the same as far as I'm concerned on an asset that trades, at these sort of numbers. So in this case, I'm still looking at this as more likely to happen. Again, 82% more likely than downside. But hey, if we do see a break of the the bottom side of the range, I'd be looking for a move probably closer to 19,000 before anything else, and then come back to it after that. I mean, we still do have a downtrend here after all, so that does need to be identified, of course. Anyways, I think that's a good dropping off point for me on this video. Again, I want to once again just subtly or gently push you towards the strategy video from yesterday, because I really do feel like I'm not trying to sound pompous here, but I really do feel like it is important, just because it's important to have an actual fucking strategy. Otherwise, you are quite literally just gambling. The reason why I put out a video like that in the heat of a bear market is because I suspect that the people actually sticking around during these times are going to actually go, make a little bit of an effort to do these sorts of things. And hey, man, it can be done. And that would be a working example for you right there. A strategy that I actually use myself as well. It's not perfect, doesn't need to be. 70% is plenty as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, I am going to be signing off on that note. I want to wish you well yet again. Take care and see you hopefully soon.